Yeah.
Isaac, is it ready?
Oh, yikes.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, Holly.
You should see him eat it like,
Represent.
he's like Taylor.
Taylor sees herself.
Oh, yeah, she does.
All right, all right.
That's
So we have our last presenter here is our very own Holly Fosmark. Holly is a personal trainer with us. She's an amazing personal trainer as well as a wellness coach, and she also has training in pre and postnatal training for people that have similar dysfunctions of what we're talking about. So she's going to come with a little different perspective, I think, for us. So without further ado, Holly.
Thank you, Scott. It's so fun to get to follow these lovely ladies with a little bit of like application for fitness professionals. So that's, I've got a little bit of a weird setup going on here, so I'll try not to let that go off too often. But yeah, pelvic floor considerations for fitness professionals. Maybe if you don't have like the super in-depth knowledge about all of those types of things, but obviously you're getting people coming in through the door, and we've already talked many times about how everyone has a pelvic floor. So you do want to know like what you can do to support your clients the best way that you can. So just as a quick overview, I'm going to talk about how I screen for pelvic floor dysfunction and a little bit about how I talk with my clients about it when it might not be like the hottest topic for everyone to be comfortable speaking about. Pelvic floor considerations during exercise and like keeping to scope of practice and like the importance of a referral network. So that's where we are headed. So as we've already talked about today, anyone with a pelvic floor can experience some dysfunction. Everyone has a pelvic floor. So these are just a few myths that have already kind of been busted today, but like for example, lots and lots of moms will come in and say, well, I can't jump or like run because I just like pee when I do. Or it will just be a situation where your client's like, I gotta run to the bathroom like in mid-session, and they're like, they can't finish the whole session without having to take a bathroom break. That's a clue, even if they haven't said anything to you, that something is going on. So if that's happening regularly, just like stick that in your back pocket to think about. And then Kegels are like often prescribed or recommended as a way to just strengthen your pelvic floor, and that's not always the best way to go about it. So just knowing that as a fitness professional, that there are so many other approaches and ways of dealing with these things is very useful. So when a client comes to me and I first do like their history and their intake, and I'm talking to them about like what their goals are and things like that, I'm also asking about like previous injuries that they've had, previous experiences with exercise, whether or not they've had kids, all of this kind of stuff. And it can be helpful to like kind of have all of that information in one place. So I've used multiple screening forms for pelvic floor stuff. This is the Cozian Pelvic Dysfunction Screening Protocol, just kind of like a little briefed version of it. That's the one that Genesis uses. They've given us some little nice handouts. And if you're not super comfortable like discussing like all of the details of that, or if your client isn't, you could just give them a handout and say, do any of these apply to you? If 3 or more, you don't have to tell me which ones, but if 3 or more do apply, if you do have those experiences, you might benefit from seeing a pelvic floor PT, in addition to working with like just a fitness professional for training for whatever your goals are in that way. So a lot of these different symptoms can kind of crop up in exercise. They'll complain about like various types of like pain in their lower back, especially is a common one. I work with a lot of like pre and postnatal moms, and so they often have like pubic symphysis pain, things like that, or like sciatic stuff, just all sorts of variety of things can come up. And so it's useful to know that those relate to possible pelvic floor issues. I've also had a conversation with a client who was describing to me all of her digestive issues, and she just wanted to like lose weight because she was feeling so bloated. And I was like, have you ever had like your pelvic floor evaluated. We kind of checked her breathing a little bit, tried some 360 diaphragmatic breathing, and she asked me, what is a pelvic floor? So you might be the first person that somebody is coming to with questions about that. They might not even know what it is. So you might be just kind of like introducing them to that concept. Let's see, any other things for that? So yeah, a good way to like introduce it without having them have to like discuss in great detail if like it's a brand new client or they are not super comfortable with it, is to use that screening form. And then if you find out that some of those things apply and they are wanting to be specific, in training you can apply appropriate modifications so that you're addressing some of those things and they're not feeling super symptomatic during training sessions. So some considerations for those training sessions. I think one important thing to get across to clients is that they're not broken. That this is not like the be-all end-all of how they're always going to be feeling, and that they can still do movements. So one of the things on here is progressive loading, and a lot of people are very afraid of loading exercises when they've had like pain and dysfunction in the past. So kind of overcoming some of that mindset is really important. We've already talked today a lot about the 360-degree diaphragmatic breathing and posture, so like stacking the rib cage over the pelvis. Obviously, you're not gonna go walking around all day like super stiff and like stock still holding that posture, but when it comes to a loaded movement, it's really useful to be able to have the core and the breathing patterns functioning as they optimally can. So after you've kind of addressed a couple of those things, you can start coordinating breath to movement and then progressively loading. And you want to do that in multiple planes of motion. So not just, for example, like on the floor. That can be like a really popular and like safe place to start is like a floor exercise. A lot of that kind of stuff is really common, or like seated, but you definitely want to be able to do some of those more heavily loaded exercises, like from standing positions and different stances and things like that without having that pain. So, and if you don't feel like you have like a super strong knowledge base in the details, keep learning more. That's like the best thing that you can do as a fitness professional, is always surround yourself with people who like know more than you and can inform you on some of these things. Okay, so I also talked a little bit about how I work a lot with women who are pregnant, postpartum, maybe trying to conceive. And so there's some really common things that you deal with when you're pregnant, and you need to like adjust them to be appropriate for exercise. So obviously pregnancy itself creates a lot of downward pressure on the pelvic floor and on the interior abdominal wall. So there are lots of things that can be done to kind of help to make sure that you're exercising as safely as possible and still continuing to do the things that you love, because it's not dangerous to strength train during pregnancy. So one popular and important thing that isn't really thought of at the very beginning usually, especially for first-time moms, is how to get up and down from equipment or off of the floor. So I will start having my clients roll in and out of positions, because at first, like, you can totally just, you know, flexion, sit right up, no problem, but after a while there's not really the space to do that. So if you're just like shooting straight up from a laying down position to upright, you're just putting a lot of pressure on the interior abdominal wall that you don't really need to do. So, and that goes for like a bench as well. If you're laying on a bench, laying on a floor, getting out of bed, those kinds of practices. Modifying exercises. For example, anything that's prone, like you might be doing a push-up or something like that, you can do it at an inclined position. So have hands on like a barbell at waist height or whatever, and you just incline to the degree that you're not seeing any like coning, doming, they're still managing pressure well. And then supine exercises. You can still do dumbbell bench press. Maybe it just needs a little bit of an incline, especially if the person is particularly susceptible to feeling like dizziness, lightheadedness in that supine position. And I've found with my clients that that varies a lot. So some people really do experience that like almost right away, and other people are like, no, I'm totally fine. So ask a lot of questions, like ask for feedback throughout sessions and all that good stuff. Another one that I commonly come across is pubic symphysis pain. So because there's so much relaxing going on between the structures of the pelvis, there's just a lot of shifting around, and so there's pain with like gait motions or split stances, things like getting out of the car where you stick one leg out first and then you bring the other one around. So simple things like keeping the legs together, so just kind of keeping the legs together when you shift out of the car, doing a bilateral stance. So if you're going to do a row, maybe you're not doing a split stance, but you're doing something that's a little bit more bilateral. So you're still like strengthening, loading, doing all those things, but you don't have to like work against what is really challenging. And then strengthening the core, absolutely very important. And also, as we've talked about today, making sure that we're balancing tone. So one of the really important parts in pregnancy is the end, childbirth. The baby has to come out and the pelvic floor needs to get out of the way. So if we're not knowing how to lengthen that and allow it to descend, that's just a lot more difficult for that process to occur. So kind of around like 36-ish weeks, I start to like really have my clients focus a lot on practicing that relaxation, whether they're doing like their 360 breathing or, you know, whatever breathing practice that they have. But I'm definitely not like having them go a lot heavier with exercises and things like that. And a little like easier rule of thumb, if you kind of don't know where to begin, is when you're working rep ranges, working like in that 3 to 5, like super heavy for them rep range isn't really advised during pregnancy because it's not really a time necessarily to be like hitting huge strength gains, but it's more of like a maintenance and an event prep. You're prepping for childbirth and being a mom. There's so many like movements that are like classic mom related movements. Suitcase carries, carrying a car seat. I can relate so many things to like mom movements. But good rule of thumb is these rep ranges. If they're doing 6 to 8 reps of something, you'd want them to be able to do about 3 to 4 more with good form, still being able to like maintain their breathing. If you're doing more than 10, you'd maybe want them to be doing 1 or 2 more comfortably with good form. I also encourage any of my pregnant clients or trying to conceive to see a pelvic floor physical therapist maybe even before they get pregnant to get a good baseline so that they kind of know if there's anything that they could be working on during pregnancy to kind of prepare for birth. Pelvic floor PTs also know a lot about like birth positions, different positions for like internal hip rotation for opening the bottom of the pelvis for the birth process. Like all of that stuff is like great information to know beforehand. And then also related to pregnancy is being cleared after like 6 to 8 weeks after giving birth does not mean cleared to resume activity as normal. A lot of OBGYNs don't necessarily refer automatically to pelvic floor physical therapy, so that's another thing that I automatically do for all of my postpartum clients. Is, have you seen a pelvic floor PT? Just to make sure everything is good and that like everything is re-coordinating, because there's like that rehab process that needs to happen. And then scope of practice. The easiest way to go over that is when in doubt, refer out. So build a referral network. Connect with practitioners that you know and trust so you can feel super confident sending your clients there, your patients, whatever it might be. And then not only that, but communicating with those professionals. So cultivating ways that you're comfortable asking your clients, hey, can I communicate with your practitioner, and making sure that you have like their written permission to do that, and then ask the medical professional for discussion. And most of them are really open to that. And if they're really like not open to that, I would be kind of like, that would be kind of a questionable situation in my mind. But yeah, the cultivating a network, not just building it to start with, but continuing those relationships, making sure that you're going about it in a really professional way. So like that written permission, and making sure that you share that with the client and the practitioner that you're trying to communicate with. Yeah, let's see. And then last but not least, you don't have to be a pelvic floor expert to be able to educate and normalize conversations around pelvic dysfunction and health and fitness, because it can be kind of a taboo topic for some people, especially older clients as well. A lot of like women who are older right now went through the generation for sure where like leaking was just normal. If you've had kids, like these are just issues you're gonna have for the rest of your life. And it is common, but it is not normal, and it doesn't have to be that way. So with that, do you have any questions?
Sure, I got one.
Okay.
So, Holly, obviously the other two ladies that spoke, they're in a very like specialized niche.
Yeah.
And we're more like fitness and movement. So from your field of work and working with all kinds of people, what would you say have been your biggest successes in discovering something that can't be taught, but just working on everyday people, fine tuning, your methods, your strategies, how you start, where you start, that process of procedure. Just give me like one really big win that you think is just gold, and then your biggest frustration.
Okay, so the question is, what has been one of my biggest wins as I've been working with clients around this topic? I think, and like fine tuning my method, and then the other part of that was like a huge frustration. So the wins are like so simple to me. So when I had the client who asked me like, what is a pelvic floor? Like it was such a huge win and opportunity to just be able to educate her on that and how that could like make a huge difference in her life. So that's not something that I needed to have like super in-depth knowledge for. Like I think it's important to realize how much of a difference you can make just by bringing up the conversation. So like those things bring a huge smile to my face when you can just like help somebody put the pieces together of like what's going on in their body and what might be related to that. So that's always a huge win. And then a biggest challenge, I had a client in the past who I knew had like pelvic floor challenges of some kind. She also had like breathing pattern challenges. I think there's like a lot of trauma behind the doors there. And I did a lot of like referring and coached her for a long time, and she just wasn't in like a place to be receptive. And so that can be difficult just because like you want to help so much and you want to like fix the problem, and you can't always, and that can be really disappointing. But knowing that down the road you're going to know more, that person just may not be in the right place for that. All of those things can like encourage you through those challenges. So yeah.
So what would this Holly say to that Holly if you could do that process again? What would you do?
I would definitely like give her a screening. Honestly, I would continue what I did then, actually, like trying to get her to go to therapy. She definitely needed that like as a part of her care team, like, and that was something again that she wasn't super receptive to, but I would definitely encourage her to do that, and probably just push her a little bit more to do more coordinated movements. It was something that she was like very fearful of, and just like more combination movements in an attempt to like make it a little bit more fun and have it not be such like a deep thinking process all the time. So yeah, make it enjoyable.
All right, thanks, Holly.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we went over time anyway, even though we had less people today. So sorry about that. Thank you guys for coming so much. This one was put together real quick, so the next one will be a little more organized and give everyone a little more heads up for. And that will be in the spring. So we're going to try to do Masterminds twice a year. We'll let you guys know the topic and the dates and the times and everything, hopefully after the holidays here. But thank you guys so much for coming. I super appreciate it. And I know the other two ladies had had to go, but big round of applause for all of our speakers today. And does anyone have any questions on Masterminds or anything related to that?
Do you guys have an email or something?
So everything's done through Greater Than. So
Okay.
Greater Than Performance and Rehab, the whole thing's spelled out at
Okay.
gmail.com
Okay.
is our email, and yeah, that's how you get reach us. If you guys aren't familiar with Greater Than, it's a wellness center, and we have physical therapy here, we have massage, we have personal training, we have chiropractic, we have a cool gym, but it's kind of like the Masterminds concept, where we're trying to bring together these different disciplines in order to best serve our clients and our patients. Because, like we've said several times over here, the other ladies did, how many times do you find something in a patient or client you have to refer out? Well, we want to refer in. So we're trying to build a community of highly educated, loving, great people where we can all work together in the same place to help those people heal and reach their goals, whatever that is. So thank you guys for coming. We'll see you next time.